Settle down, brother. This is the Quarter Report, powered by ENC.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. I know the Madlanga Commission is fundamentally about General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, but the bombshells that have dropped in just the last few days from National Police Commissioner Fanie Masemola deserve to be put up there with everything General Mkhwanazi said last week. He spoke about Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, allegedly, according to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, being happy with and endorsing the disbandment of the political killings task team. He spoke about, in his mind, the alleged close connections between Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya and many criminal network-connected people, including Vusimuzi Kat Matlala. And maybe most significantly, he said the Parliamentary Committee on Policing, which involves politicians from many of the biggest political parties in South Africa, was overwhelmingly happy with Mchunu's proposal to disband the political killings task team. So once again, what we are learning in real time is that it's not just the ANC, but it's a raft of political parties across our political and parliamentary system who may now be pretending that they're on Mkhwanazi's side and are against the evil rot and the corruption, but were perfectly chilled with the PKTT, the task team, being disbanded just a little while ago. As always, the only place to watch the show is on ENC.com. Click on the link in the description. And if you're on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. Go get your 3 Beanies Network merchandise at the other link in the description, which is www.3beaniesnetwork.com. You will remember that General Mkhwanazi claimed that President Ramaphosa had personally congratulated the political killings task team on their, in Mkhwanazi's view, sterling, phenomenal work. And that is why Mkhwanazi, one of the reasons why Mkhwanazi and co found it so shocking and inexplicable that there was now this movement from people, specifically Ramaphosa's selected police minister Senzo Mchunu and longtime Ramaphosa ally, who was one of the reasons why Ramaphosa managed to get into power. That's one of the reasons why they found it so inexplicable that Ramaphosa would co-sign or be okay with the political killings task team being disbanded. So then Fanie Masemola came up to testify, and he said that Senzo Mchunu had claimed that Cyril Ramaphosa was in agreement with the decision to disband the political killings task team. That's massive in a few ways. The first obvious way is that on the one hand, we have Mkhwanazi saying that Ramaphosa was perfectly happy with and delighted with and congratulated the task team on their work. And on the other hand, we have Masemola reporting that Mchunu said that Ramaphosa was in agreement with disbanding the task team. So that's already a very big deal. But what this has now done is meant that the president has to now make himself available for the Madlanga Commission. Whether he will is another matter, but this is the second time that somebody testifying has said that the president was aware of the task team and their work, had an opinion about the task team and their work, and was, to one degree or another, involved in what was happening to the task team. I know that Ramaphosa has no intention, really, of, he's trying to distance himself as much as possible and keep the commission and the potential police fraud over there and far away from him, but he is fundamentally connected now, not implicated necessarily yet in wrongdoing, but his name is being used to carry weight between the warring factions over what was supposed to happen or not happen to the political killings task team. The commission needs, the country needs him to come before the commission and tell us, did he congratulate the task team on their allegedly sterling work? Did he tell Senzo Mchunu that he was in agreement with Mchunu on disbanding the task team or not? That has become a fundamentally important part of this investigation because Ramaphosa clearly, if he is involved, there is no further extent to which this could go all the way to the top if the president is involved. And the fact that he's been cited now by 2 completely different narratives means that both sides believe that if he were to come before the commission, he would testify in their favor. So the president now has to come to the commission. And I really hope that they call on him. And I really hope that he does acquiesce and come and stand before the commission and explain himself. Because after this, he can no longer claim that it's over there and he didn't know and it's all shocking and he was caught off guard and unawares and all the other lovely stuff that he likes to say. So that in and of itself is a really big deal. We have to talk about Fanie Masemola claiming that Parliament overwhelmingly, or to a great degree, backed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in his push to disband the Political Killings Task Team. Those are the words of Vusutando Percival Dube from City Press. That is massive. We have talked a lot about and heard a lot about how Mkhwanazi came before Parliament earlier this year, tried to speak to all of these big figures and say that there was this rot in the police and would they please deal with it, and got nowhere. We've talked a lot about and heard a lot about the fact that Fanie Masemola spoke to Parliament and different committees, and Mkhwanazi did the same thing, trying to defend the Political Killings Task Team, defend its existence, make sure it didn't get disbanded, and how different people involved in Parliament in different committees seem to largely blue tick them or not care what they were saying. If Fanie Masemola is right, and he said this on Tuesday, that Parliament largely sided with Senzo Mchunu and supported the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team, then that means there are a lot of people from a lot of political parties who are involved in this. So he specifically talks about, Masemola does, the Portfolio Committee on Police in March 2025. And again, let's work through this portfolio committee. So the chairperson of this committee is Ian Cameron from the DA, the guy who mixed up his vussies, if you remember that. The guy who's like super police first and hardcore on crime, and he's the chairperson. Then there is Zalna Sarah Abadar, who's from the Umkhonto Sizwe, Fadil Adams, who's from the National Colour Congress. Go watch our earlier shows or listen about how he's been deeply implicated in this case. General Mkhwanazi believes that Adams took information that maybe he shouldn't have had, certainly used it in a way that he shouldn't have had to open cases against Dumisani Khumalo. And then there are plenty of people from the ANC. So Errol Alzano Klute is from the ANC. Leanne Mates, who is one of the biggest names in the economic freedom fighters. Then we got another person from the ANC, got another reverend, this is Reverend Kenneth Meshwe from the African Christian Democratic Party. So that's another party. Then someone else from the African National Congress, Lisa Murray Schikkeling from the Democratic Alliance. And the last person is another one from MK, David Mandla Skosana. So that's a raft of parties, both in the GNU and outside of the GNU. And overwhelmingly, they were happy with Mkhunu's push to disband the Political Killings Task Team. Whatever they're saying now, however they're trying to sell it now, according to Fanie Masemola, that is not what happened earlier on in this committee meeting. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying that all the political parties are deeply involved in this grand conspiracy to like protect a drug cartel and like protect criminal networks and let the mafia get away with it. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I want to know why the overwhelming majority of people in that committee were fine with the PKTT being disbanded, especially if they're now saying that they're not fine with it, that they're now picking the other side of history. And again, it's the second and third biggest party in the country, the DA and MK, both with 2 representatives. It's one of the biggest names in the economic freedom fighters. It's one of the biggest names in the African Christian Democratic Party. It's the leader of the NCC. These are big, consequential, important people. So what else did Fanie Masemola say? Fanie Masemola explicitly spoke about trying to tell Senzo Mchunu about how deeply worrying the connections were between Shadrack Sibiya, now on suspension, but then Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, and known alleged criminals, people for whom there were investigations ongoing and seemed to be evidence that they had committed a raft of crimes, most significantly Vusimusi Cat Matlala. And the other thing that is very important to remember from Masemola's testimony so far this week is that he said that he believed that Shadrack Sibiya took hold of those 121 case dockets from the Political Killings Task Team earlier this year and held them on his desk so that he could go through them and see what evidence or what investigations or what intentions the Political Killings Task Team had against significant members of the alleged criminal underworld. So he could pass that information on and so that he could let everybody know what was going on. As per the reporting of Bernadette Wicks and Karen Morn, Masemola also believes that when his deputy for crime detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, sent 121 of the unit's dockets to Pretoria, it was done in an effort to access information about what information they had on the likes of Katiso Molefe, and Vusimusi Cat Matlala. That is unbelievably significant considering how important those dockets are to this entire story, to this entire case. So I hope you understand the extent to which what Fanie Masemola has said is just as consequential and just as impactful as what we heard from Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi last week, and has created so many more lines of inquiry for specific key figures who are going to be under investigation and called before the commission, like Shadrack, Sibiya, and like Senzo Mchunu.
Something that I'm becoming increasingly worried about in the last few days of testimony is the fact that half of what is being identified is public record. So as you said, Shadrack, Sibiya taking the dockets, that portfolio committee, voting in a certain direction. But then the other half of it is very difficult to find proof for. So how, unless Ramaphosa comes out and says, I did compliment the PKTT,
or I did tell him that I was fine with him disbanding it.
How are they going to prove that happened? Because obviously Mkhwanazi has shown some WhatsApp screenshots and stuff like that, but how is he going to prove that conversation happened? And if this case and this whole commission starts calling into he said, she said, he said, and it becomes sort of like a hearsay conversation, it becomes very difficult, or far more difficult, to find the truth within it. And I'm not saying that this hearsay stuff didn't happen, just saying it becomes far more difficult to be definitive on anything if you don't have like smoking gun. I think Rebecca Davis said yesterday, there hasn't been a smoking gun yet.
Yeah. So I agree with that. And to be clear, Mkhwanazi has repeatedly said evidence on this claim is coming. So we can wait for that. Masemola has also been good. He has said, I believe these things, or I don't have evidence. He said earlier in the week, I've hearsay on these things. That's significant, right? And I think that they're being good about that. What I will say to what you just said, James, though, is as much as I don't think it will be he said, she said in full, because there is evidence coming out. And for example, if evidence comes out that there are direct links between Shadrack, Sibiya and Matlala, then that makes we can more reasonably infer other things that fit in with the evidence that exists. We will at some point going to have to just use balance of probability to say, well, Matlala probably will be found guilty of all these things. We have evidence to show these things. We have evidence to show this stuff about. So maybe a great example is the Shadrack Sibiya case, right? Maybe there will never be explicit evidence to prove that Sibiya found information within those dockets and passed it on to Matlala and Katie Malefa to help them out. But if it is proven that Sibiya did a whole bunch of other dodgy and illegal stuff in and around Matlala, for example, enabling him to get police protection and access to other police investigations, like Mkhwanazi said, and blue lights, you can reasonably then infer that Shadrack Sibiya would also have done this thing for him because it follows a line of behavior and a pattern of incentive and motive. This is the kind of thing Shadrack would do based on the proof of the other things he has done. We've been talking for quite a long time, and not just WhatsApp line. We have been talking about these new revelations for quite a long time, and there's still interesting smaller stuff that's happened that we should also highlight. So ENCA just got an exclusive just this morning that Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi, the other Mkhwanazi, don't get confused. He's the one who Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said, and I don't think that they are related. There's no evidence to suggest that, literally in different provinces. But Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi had manipulated and corrupted the process of getting blue lights on cars, to have blue lights placed on Matlala's cars, which obviously he's a private citizen. That's insane. That's corruption. That's illegal. He just this morning said he himself was going on special leave while figuring out about, I think half of SAPS is going to be on special leave by the end of the year. Maybe. Who's going to be on the streets? The other thing, though, is some sleuths online found a story from January this year, 22 January 2025, which is fascinating. It's from, I'm going to read the one from EWN, Eyewitness News. The reporter is Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The African National Congress and its alliance partners in KwaZulu-Natal have welcomed the disbandment of the political killings task team and have called for an investigation into the task team. That's interesting for a raft of reasons. Firstly, let's think about why a political party in KwaZulu-Natal whose members have been killed for their politics would want the political killings task team to be disbanded. Either they want something not to be discovered, or they genuinely believe that the political killings task team was a force for evil in that part of the world. But it's fascinating to see that now, considering everything that has happened since.